So today we're welcoming Sean Holt, who is the Director of Unmanned Systems and Special Projects at Timberland Helicopter in Ashland, Oregon. Sean has a pretty extensive resume with a great deal of experience. He's going to be able to give you a lot of information today. But before I pass it over to him, I'd like to share a few highlights. So Sean is an FAA Part 107 remote pilot and instructor. This means that Sean is able to not only fly drones commercially, but he can also prepare others for their Part 107 examination. And I know from experience that this examination is not easy. It's very heavy in information. Sean's also the leader of Timberland Helicopter's newly developed Northwest Drone Academy, where they have a 100% success rate with their students. That's something that I'm sure Sean is very proud of. And this is also something I'm very interested in, Sean, so maybe we can have a conversation on that offline. Sean served in the U.S. Navy as a craft master and an intelligence officer. He also worked for the Department of Homeland Security, where he helped to establish the Transportation Security Operations Center. They manage the transportation incidents with the TSA, the FAA, the FBI, and other law enforcement agencies. So if a plane's ever diverted or there's a threat on an airplane, the TSOC responds to and manages those types of situations. So as you probably can realize, it's a very important work for the safety and security of all American travels. Finally, Sean was also a first responder in New York City during the tragic events of September 11th of 2001. This is an experience I'm sure Sean will tell you has shaped his life in many ways. With that said, I'm going to turn it over to Sean so he can tell you more about the drone-specific applications in the real world. Sean, if you want to go ahead and take it over, she's all yours.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Get a thumbs up. What? All right. Great. Well, I just want to say thank you very much for taking me to be your presentation today. It's a real pleasure to be able to get to speak with you. Not too long ago, I was a kid growing up here in Southern Oregon. I went to school in Ashland, and just to let you know, kind of preference this conversation, and one of the reasons I was passionate and excited to be able to speak with you guys is that when I was your age, I was a bit of a hellraiser and got in a bunch of trouble as well. Full disclosure, I got arrested a couple times before I was 17, and that really kind of whipped me into shape in determining the trajectory that I wanted with my life. So with that said, I just want to, I hope, inspire and give some hope to all of you guys that, you know, your path is not written yet, that you guys can still do whatever you want in your life. And humans are really self-limiting. Don't let anybody tell you you can't do anything, because if I can get away with it and do the things that I have, I guarantee all of you can. So with that said, let's go ahead and just roll into the presentation. I'll just give you, this is a presentation we have kind of our services that we performed for our clients, just to give a overall 30,000 foot overview of our division. So without further ado, we're at Timberland Helicopter's Unmanned Systems and Special Projects Division. Next slide.
Can everyone see that screen? Awesome.
Great. So over the past 5 years, Timberland Helicopters realized that drones and unmanned systems, we'll use those terms interchangeably, we're going to really change the world in terms of aviation and pretty much every other aspect with regards to inspections, surveys, and a lot of other capabilities, as I'm sure you're all seeing with driverless cars and now vessels. It's really starting to explode. We're having a convergence of technology that has taken, you know, pretty much all of mankind to get to this point where we are right now. So it's really exciting. I'm happy to be at the forefront of this, but we set up this division about 5 years ago and did a bunch of surveys, inspections, working out new platforms and software systems in the unmanned space. And we were able to demonstrate asset inspection services using secure user interfaces like software, basically where we could upload items for inspections and keep those secure. So we'll go through some more of those, but next slide, please. So we were founded in 1981. Timberland has been a trusted name in aviation for almost 40 years. We have a history in logging, snowcat operation, and aviation services throughout the Pacific Northwest. We're being inactive, have another forward operating base in Salt Lake City. Our clients include Pacific Power, U.S. Forest Service, state of Oregon and California. And we do a lot of manned services in power line and wind farm structural inspections, wildland firefighting. As you can imagine, is pretty important as of late. And then we assist with law enforcement and medical emergency services, private charters, the whole slew. Then in 2015, we set up the unmanned systems division, as mentioned, just in order to get ahead of the upcoming changes that were going to be introduced into this space. And then in 2017, 2018, we started offering our Part 107 courses. Part 107 refers to a subcategory of the Code of Federal Regulations, CFR. So 14 CFR handles the aerospace and space applications to the United States government. Part 107 was introduced around 2016 to allow the integration of unmanned systems into the national airspace. You can play that video, just a little user video, nothing spectacular here, but just for your entertainment purposes. I'm not sure if you're getting sound on that. Okay, next slide, please. All right, just about our existing competencies. We have about 6 commercial pilots and certified flight instructors on our team. Pretty small team. We can wind farm inspections, electrical utility, precision agriculture. Precision agriculture refers to using multispectral analysis and other means to provide enhanced business decisions for people with farms, vineyards, wineries, for example, just trying to help spot things from the air using different spectral frequencies that come in that cameras can pick up, and they can spot areas where there's pooling of water, where there's nitrogen deficiency, etc. It's really an exciting means of this industry. The UN expects a need of 30% increase in food deliverables over the next 20 years in order to meet demands. And really one of the only ways to get there is precision agriculture, really being able to fine tune what we're able to do as far as outputs. As well, we've done rock quarry and volumetric surveys. So we go fly over a rock quarry, and just the regular cameras on these drones now are so incredible. Actually, they can fly over these rock quarries and be able to determine the volume of rock in that pile of rocks. You can assign a value and a weight to them. So you can do a quick shot of, maybe your workspace or your rock quarry to see what the value of and amount product you have left in you. As Josh was saying, we do our Part 107 training and certification with a 100% success rate. So we do a 2-day smash course, 0 to hero, where we take students, sit them in, and really teach them through a fire hose everything there is pertinent to the Part 107. license certification. So, and that's about 80% of the information that you'd need to become a private pilot. So it's pretty extensive, and we've been able to fine tune it and cram it into a day and a half instruction. And then we do practical flight instruction, basic, advanced, and intermediate. Also, the National Institute of Standards and Technology have put out a course basically for Department of Homeland Security and the defense departments to be able to use as a means of training people for proficiency in emergency situations. And then a couple years ago, I went to Asia, in Bali, in Thailand, Japan, Cambodia, Malaysia for about 12 or 17. All right, I'm back. It jumped off. I should be back. Let me know if you can't hear me. I was in Asia for 17 months. We were doing virtual reality tours of luxury properties, villas, and chalets throughout Indonesia, Thailand, and Japan, and making short films. And that was kind of really how I cut my teeth on drones. Just prior to that, I was working as a marine surveyor after I got out of the Navy, working on ships and oil rigs, living in Asia and Africa, doing inspections on them for regulatory compliance. And then someone in my company had said that they were going to start allowing the use of drones to inspect ships and oil rigs. And I looked around the table and told my buddies that we were going to be out of a job in 10 years. And so I left. And that was about 4 years ago now. And lo and behold, my old company is calling me back saying, hey, you kind of spotted that, right? And we'd like you to come back and help start inspecting ships and oil rigs, because especially during COVID with the restrictions on everything, they've really relaxed the rules for remote inspection techniques. And so we can use drones now and 360 cameras to go and do asset inspections and have a written document basically and a photographic objective evidence for anything. And then we've recently been getting into sales and support with drone equipment and other manufacturers. Next slide, please. Our evolving competencies, we do telecom inspections. That's kind of a growing thing. Just for reference, our biggest hurdle in doing this game has been getting a buy-in from clients, trying to show them, what the value add is for being able to use drone systems like this. Most of these old big companies are run by legacy personnel who've been in the business for 30, 40 years, and change is not top of their priority. So no one really wants to be the first one doing the new thing. So it's taken us a while to get there, but we're moving into that. Telecom inspections, 3D modeling, digital twins of physical assets. So like that asset, that's an oil rig production platform on the left-hand side. 3D modeling and digital twins would include going and taking extreme high definition pictures, and in some cases LiDAR, which is like radar, but the use with lights to go back and get extremely detailed point clouds to make a three-dimensional model. And then we do what's called making a digital twin of that. So the future of asset inspections is digital twins. What I mean by that is you can have a digital platform, a digital physical asset that you can do extreme detailed analysis on, forecasts, and also compare against the actual physical structure to the digital twin for long-term asset planning and management. Graphic information systems, similar, just high definition mapping basically of the geographic spaces. Emergency management and public safety, we've really been working and tapping in with our law enforcement partners and public safety firefighters. There's just a really market right now to be able to augment law enforcement and firefighting departments who have shortfalls in budgets or resources, or, for example, these fires that we just had, the huge wildland fires, being able to take a drone up and spot and give real-time information of where that fire line actually is versus legacy maps that are usually made overnight and where the fire line actually progresses significantly by the time those images that were taken at night are put on the desk of the field commander in the morning. On top of that, doing port security, maritime oil and gas, and we can even use multi-gas detection to fly around ports to determine if any ships are violating air pollution. Next slide, please. in-depth scenario and mission-specific UAS training, as I was mentioning, about our partners within law enforcement, public safety. We do a lot of bespoke or specific, catered, tailored, specific training missions to help our partners really determine, and that's kind of a growing competency with us. It's really new in the industry. Very small amount of people are doing that, but it will be growing off. And then we do work in cinematography and editing. I just was able to come back and did a video for one of our clients, the Near Space Corporation. They do payload assessment and testing of materials and equipment for the space program, specifically the Launch 2020 Alliance. We're going to be putting more spacecraft in Mars and our other planets, Venus, the planets of Venus as well. So we get to work with those guys, do some filming, and assist with other unmanned systems. So it's really becoming an exciting time. And Oregon is one of the meccas for this. Oregon has a huge presence in the unmanned systems department. We have 3 throughout the state of Oregon, UAS test ranges, dedicated FAA test facilities, and we're partnered with them. Next slide. Waivers, basically for the Part 107, there's rules that include you can't fly at night. You have to maintain visual line of sight with your aircraft, meaning with your naked eye, you have to be able to directly see your aircraft because there's no onboard person. You are manipulating the controls remotely, hence we are referred to as remote pilots or remote airmen, according to the FAA. Yielding right of way to manned vehicles, operations over people, all those things on there. Those are all restrictions, but we can do waivers so we can operate if we're able to provide FAA sufficient recourse on how we're able to mitigate issues. Next slide. Asset inspection, just kind of digging into the details a little bit more as far as one of the main growth strategies here and other companies is giving enhanced business intelligence. I'm sure you're all familiar now with how powerful data is in all its capacities, and being able to really amplify that with the use of machine intelligence, where you can give machine trained data sets in order to really pick up minute details that otherwise wouldn't have been picked up by humans, that you'd have to have a dedicated staff of people really looking in a lot of curious ways. Machine intelligence, artificial learning, and computer vision, another term, where we're able to basically merge all those technologies, converge those technologies for optimal performance and software capabilities. So example would be flying over large areas of utility lines, power transmission lines with the drone, and the drone's machine learning and computer vision would be able to pick up discrepancies or anomalies near immediately with a high success rate compared to a human having to go back and review that footage at a later time. You can spot things live and then be able to expand your search immediately thereafter. Next slide. Right, drone inspection solutions. So we try to take all this information, make digestible and interactive visual reports for field engineers, project managers, and clients. We have a rapid turnaround time, again, for these optimized operations. You can help identify risk and reduce safety factors and optimize your operating expenditures. With traceable objective photographic evidence for surveys, you can go back and really say, hey, this was an issue then, or if there was an issue, you can go back and say this wasn't an issue beforehand. So it gives you that traceability. You produce wide areas of data with photos, multispectral thermal imaging. That's also big right now. You can be able to determine hot spots in machinery with thermal imaging that you wouldn't be able to pick up with the naked eyes easily. And then we provide these services and trainings for other companies so they can benefit from them. Next slide, please. Telecom, as we were mentioning, we can build comprehensive high definition video, 2D imagery, interactive 3-dimensional, and what's called photogrammetry of hard to reach equipment. So instead of a person having to climb up that ladder, it would take maybe a full day to inspect, we can do an inspection in 1 to 2 hours and provide 3D modelings. This is a photographic photogrammetry image on the left-hand side. Really useful for discovering of insect collectives like beehives, or protect against aggressive wildlife prior to climbing for people as well in an emergency. You can investigate structural integrity of a platform or asset prior to sending someone up above. These are repeatable, so you can fly the same mission repeatedly, and so you can have a time slide to basically see, hey, how did this object look, 1, 2, 3 months ago on a side-by-side comparison. Cameras, you can zoom in, see nuts, bolts, serial numbers. You can avoid mobilization expenses and even cranes, which is good for the operator, and reduce operational risk by keeping personnel on the ground when you can. And then all that data can be taken and shared, uploadable. You can bring other stakeholders in it. So if I did this inspection, I could then go into the portal and basically, similar to like Facebook, you could tag someone that's in the organization and say, hey, we're highlighting this area, please address it. And then you can come back to that. Next slide. Thermal imagery, interactive thermal views with high resolution for remote issues, diagnostics. Again, similar on the top left, you can see pictures of telecom tower, and you can see on a black cold, red hot, or white hot aspect, you can see these areas where the crosshairs on there, you have SP1, SP2, SP3. Those are identifying areas where you might have more thermal conductivity or resistance rather. And so you can address these and say, hey, maybe we're going to have thermal cycling on these cables that could be an issue. You can address them beforehand. Again, generating annotated reports, we can detect every issue and bring them to people's attentions and make sure that they're followed up on. Go ahead, next slide. Roof reports. This is kind of big right now, especially in the south where hurricanes and major weather storms come through. You get high accuracy roof measurements and automatic report and anomaly detection. You can quickly identify issues, defects that are visible either to the naked eye or with thermal imaging where they may not be visible. You can generate same day and on the spot PDF reports for clients, which are great. And again, reducing worker risk by automating this process by sending a drone up. You're going to get way better business intelligence and insights than you would be compared to just sending a human on their cells. It's ideal for sending a drone up, doing that, looking and identifying any anomalies, and then you go back and truth that with a human walking around if necessary. Next slide. Solar panels, very similar. Being able to detect damage and maintenance problems with this photographic evidence. And you can see these are a combination of RGB, red, green, blue. Those are your normal electro-optical vision that you see through, your camera phone or your regular camera. And then the thermal with the red hot, white cold, or vice versa, meaning that a black area would be either hot or cold, depending on how you look at it or toggle your options. So it just gives you a broad spectrum visually to be able to see where thermal spots are. And then again, you can seamlessly make these into 3D models, and they're help to calculate production, create and share roof reports, and insurance estimates. There's big insurance is a huge aspect of this. Insurance likes seeing ways to minimize risk to people and having this objective and traceable evidence. Next slide, please. Construction project mapping, project management. You can track site progress, monitor safety, and oversee subcontractors, such as if you have spots that need to be cleaned up. On the top or the left-hand side of your screen, you'll see a time lapse essentially of when they broke ground to a portion of where they are right now. And to be able to see that time lapse, you can work with your subcontractors to ensure that all deliverables are being entertained. If they have garbage or spots that need to be cleaned up for safety, you can immediately recognize that. Again, you can streamline communications and tag people in those back-end platforms like we were telling you. And then they're good for making maps. You can really overlay a bunch of items on there to enhance the operations of the construction company. Next slide. Similar to what I was talking about the last slide, progress tracking and reporting, creating comprehensive visual records of a project is big. You can see that slider bar on the picture right there, right kind of in the center with the two arrows going left and right. You'll be able to slide that bar back and forth to really get a time-by-time comparison. And as you can see, being able to replicate the flights of the drones is extremely important. So you're getting that same visual aspect every time for an example, this side-by-side comparison. Just so you can get an honest depiction and meaningful overlays. And then again, you can built-in annotation tools to generate reports and let internal and external stakeholders being people that are involved, either clients or managers, just so everybody can literally be on the same page beforehand. Or current legacy methods are very tedious, comprehensive, require multiple platforms to communicate and demonstrate what's going on. Next slide. Cut fill, elevation comparisons. Again, you take these pictures and you can determine, hey, you know, where there's new stockpiles, where the places you can overlay CAD drawings, computer animated drawings that engineers make. Obviously, the drawings before they actually even cut ground, you then overlay those on a place that you've flown over that you're intending to place the construction project. And it'll even tell you right now, you know, how your elevation is, if you need to put more filler in a place or you need to remove. And then it can also give you volumetric, quantitative outputs on that, so you can really nail down what you need as far as, you know, amount of dirt removal or replacement in there. And again, kind of helps verify subcontractor works and manage stockpiles inventory while maintaining schedules. Next slide. Just another image of that and what that kind of looks like. You can see on the left-hand side, February 4th to February 25th. That blue indicates areas that I think needed more filling, and I put that in. Just another picture on there. Next slide. Site planning. As I was mentioning, you can overlay drone maps with site plans such as utility, wastewater, and equipment for proper clearances and engagement. Compare real-time sites conditions against the plans, and you can catch conflicts early and redirect them at a much more minimal cost. Advanced oversight and planning through integration with CAD, which is computer animated drawings, BIM, building information modules, and GIS, graphic information systems. Next slide. Precision agriculture, as we talked earlier, replacing traditional scouting methods with real-time aerial intelligence scouting methods, going out and actually walking the fields and trying to find out at the ground level what those issues are. As you can imagine, that's a very time-taking endeavor. To be able to automate that and provide near immediate aerial intelligence is a huge value add to clients. You can eliminate field threats by detecting variabilities and prevent in-season crop loss on huge farms. Qualify and quantify any issues of damage and determine appropriate and accurate rectifications. And maximizing yield through field management, replanting, nitrogen applications, or yield projections, and you can monitor the performance throughout the year. Managing field trials by comparing results from seeds, fertilizers, and chemicals across multiple geographies while overseeing product performance throughout the life cycle is a real value add again. Next slide. Similar crop counting, instead of having to go through, you can actually by hand, you can use machine learning and artificial intelligence flying over the areas and being able to pick out how many plant counts there are, and that helps you manage and project what kind of yields that you might have, and again, be able to truth and see what is on the ground versus what you might be able to see just with this plain eye. You can see on the bottom right hand picture is multispectral analysis, where those red areas and gray or brownish areas are depicting that the field isn't receiving as much nutrients and or water, and so that they're able to spot that before that might actually brown and affect side. Just more imagery of that. You can use plant health monitoring on the top hand left, 3D modeling to help you walk through and be able to find out, you know, elevations if you need to drop a portion of your crop so that you get more irrigation through there. Again, the elevation right in the middle is a good one. Optimizing and improving your variable rate nitrogen on the bottom right hand side, being able to see where those red versus green areas are for plant health. And then on the top right, you know, this one's being able to determine parasites, fungi, or, you know, rust in this case, where it's affecting the field performance. Next slide. Site documenting, being able to really run a documentation of what you can do with the process is huge. Kind of like I was saying, it's now almost like Facebook, where you go, you fly, you have your maps, it's made. and then you can go and click on there and determine areas that are of interest. There's anomalies. You can number them, you can detail them out, and then you can assign people to them by putting an @ or a hashtag on them, and then it will bring up that person's name, and then you can go back and follow up with those persons. Site engineers can track the progress, quantify affected areas, and ensure timely collaboration and resolution on them. Next slide. And again, it's a centralized platform for all the people to be able to, all stakeholders to be able to put their documentation, project maps, models, photos, videos, and panoramas. Really getting a team up to date is incredibly useful now, where you can have literally everybody that's a stakeholder involved in the same conversation, looking at the same platform. Again, ideal for insurance claims, owner documentation, and verifying that subcontractors are performing as they're supposed to. Next slide. And then online user portals. Right now, data is really encrypted and safe, and we integrate through third-party software providers that really are extremely well funded. For example, out of Silicon Valley, you know, $200 million companies that have made these online portals to what they are for what's called a single sign-on platform. Next slide. Communication and sharing, just more of the same there. What we were talking about, being able to communicate and collaborate with everybody kind of on one aspect. Next slide. Same, more of the same. Next slide. More of the same. Just kind of digging in for some of our clients. One exciting aspect is real-time drone maps for being able to go on fly your site and be able to make a 3D model immediately. Or share those informations back directly remotely. So there's someone that's is a manager maybe sitting in an office, and again, COVID's a really good example where they may not be able to deploy for whatever reason, but contractors like us can go out and fly and survey the area and the situation, make those maps, send them back either near real time or live. And it's another tremendous value add that's going to the system right now that's able to broadcast that over Wi-Fi or cellular. Next slide. And energy redistribution, again, being able to go and hone in on problem areas, and vegetation, being able to see where there's vegetation encroaching on power line equipment. This is big. The major fires that started the last couple of years in California, a lot of them were traced back to the poles, the transmission poles that were rotting, rusted, or caught on fire. They just did not have a means really to aggressively and meaningfully be able to detect and monitor the tens and hundreds of thousands of energy distribution poles. And this is a real next level means of being able to get that and be able to segment those health trends and fly over them. Next slide. Same as the previous ones. And then virtual reality tours, we can go, those really are 3-dimensional or 360-degree interactive maps where you can go click on those buttons and zoom in on items and then do a walkabout throughout the entire work site or location that we did. Those are a couple virtual reality tours I did, and one was a yacht off the coast of Thailand in Phuket, and the other is a villa, really nice luxury villa in Koh Samui, Thailand. Maybe Josh will share those with you later so you guys can try to just look around them yourselves. Those hyperlinks rather. And then our team, this is our president, Mark Gibson, been a long time friend, and I came to work with him when I moved back from Asia in 2016. He's the past chairman of the board 2 times for the Helicopter Association International, which is a big, it's the world's largest helicopter association. He's president of Timberland Helicopters and is on the working group for UAS for the state of Oregon, as well as Unmanned Systems Committee for that aforementioned Helicopter Association International. Next slide. Myself. Next slide. And one of our other pilots, Joey Bowden, also from Oregon. We'll call him All-American. Spent 13 years flying in Afghanistan as a civilian, over 6,500 flight hours flying in combat situations in support of U.S. operations. Next slide. And that's the rest of our team. They're also camera shy. And then next slide. So that's me. If you guys have any questions, more than happy to take my information, reach out. And then I'll open up the floor for some Q&A.
So does anyone have any questions for Sean? That's a lot of drone applications that you probably weren't all aware of.
I hope I didn't bore you guys too much. I know it's a lot of information, and I'm sure you got other things you could be doing right now, but I appreciate you guys taking the time to sit and listen to me. So if there's any questions, I'm more than happy. Is anybody interested in this field? Does anybody have any inspirations to maybe go in the aviation? This is a really good time, you know, and you guys are young, your brains are nimble. You can take this information and really run with it. There's opportunities now that are coming up. We've been building them, particularly in Oregon. You know, working with Josh, he's really passionate about working with you guys. And if you guys have more interest in going down the field this way, I'm happy to share more information and see what kind of programs maybe we could develop to support you guys. But, you know, I just want to express, above all else, a message of hope. You know, like, I know this is a precarious situation you're in right now. I've been there. You can get out of it, but you need to work hard and focus on what you want out of your life. And it's all right there, man. The convergence of technology is huge. There's just unlimited opportunities for those who are willing to go out and grab it.
Sean, I have a question that might whet some appetites here. And it's just, you know, you have a lot more experience than the rest of us do. So in your professional opinion, I read an article in Popular Science maybe 8 months ago, and they were talking about resource mining in space being a $5 trillion industry. For somebody like one of these young men who are kind of dipping their toes in the water, how realistic is it for them in their lifetimes to be a part of something like that, where they could be here on Earth inside of an office building, sending drones up into outer space to resource gold or, you know, some other precious metal for use in industry?
I'd say it's 100%. It's happening right now. Planetary Resources is a company that's doing that, working with Dr. Peter Diamandis out of the Singularity University, which is at Ames Research Laboratory, NASA Ames Research Laboratory in San Francisco area. First and foremost, you know, I'd really just start trying to gear your brains up and read a bunch, or audiobooks. When I was living in Singapore, I was working on ships and oil rigs, and I started listening to books about the future. And I'm happy to give a list of books that really changed my life. And it just prepared you for just the convergence of technology, how rapidly it's moving, and help you determine maybe what your personal applications for that are. You know, it's so widespread. You know, you could be a pilot, you could be doing engineering. You know, there's just so many facets of it right now. So I would say, going back to the original question, there's 100% the opportunity that you guys can get involved in this. And we're working with companies right now on the next payloads going to Mars and deep outer space.
How exciting.
Very exciting.
Does anyone else have any questions? Gene, do you have a question?
I have a question over here.
Go ahead.
Please.
Okay. First of all, thank you for your time. We appreciate you. My question is, like, is there educational requirement to, like, high school diploma or a degree of any kind?
Well, you know, that's kind of changed, you know, for sure. When I was your age, that was definitely a requirement, and still is in a lot of ways. And I'll always be a proponent of education. But let me just caveat that by people like Elon Musk have come out very, very poignantly and said, I don't care about your degree. I care about your capabilities. So the world is changing. That doesn't mean you shouldn't educate yourself. What I'm saying there is you don't necessarily have to go the traditional routes. For me personally, I went the traditional routes somewhat. You know, again, I mentioned I got in trouble when I was younger, and then kind of like when I was 17, I really turned it on and just made the really determined that I was going to have to work hard, and I really got myself in school. I tried turning off the other distractions, girls, parties, whatever, you name it. Got back into those later, but for the time being, you got to really focus and kind of figure out what you're going to get to. Read a bunch. There's tons of like correspondence courses you can do. If able to at an appropriate time, look at joining clubs like Civil Air Patrol or the Sea Cadets, Naval Air Sea Cadets. Those help kickstart my career. And then military for me, man. You know, I didn't come from a family with money. I know it's not for everybody, but the military really disciplined me, got me in shape, got money in my pocket, and I got to fly around the world. Literally, I've sailed around the world multiple times. And again, coming from Southern Oregon and starting off as a troublemaker, that's kind of a real level playing field is jumping in the military. If not, there's just a lot of educational opportunities out there, technically specific as well. So again, I'm more than happy to help Josh out in determining some of those paths if you guys are really legitimately interested and want to find some of those routes. I want to make sure you guys don't feel you're forgotten, because I sure as hell did when I was a kid, and there's great opportunities to be had no matter who you are right now. You're in America. This is the greatest country in the world with the greatest opportunities in the world.
Right on.
Hey, Sean, can you think of maybe some like classes at RCC that youth could access online while they're here, or maybe some other resources like that would be a possible way to help get them started?
Yeah, I mean, that's the great level to start at. You know, in my career, I really kind of had to start low and keep working up the ladders. If you guys have access to something such as RCC, that'd be great. I'd highly recommend math. Math is always huge. And any mechanical, STEM, science, technology, engineering, mechanics, arts are great for the mind, but I love arts, but they're not going to get you to where you want to probably be in a lot of aspects. Particularly, I mean, arts are kind of something I found personally. I go back and do and play on the side. I love arts. I love music. I DJ house parties on the side on the weekends. Well, pre-COVID, so arts are still important. I still play and hang out, but you know, I determined how I was going to go, and it was really focused on that technical aspect. So first, get your feet into that game and kill the grades, man. Just put in as much effort. It's all about effort. And what I learned growing up, and the more mature I got, you know, the more I was able to focus on my college career or academics, and that becomes noticed. Volunteering your time, writing articles. I'm a published author for the Maritime Executive magazine. And again, I just did a bunch of things for free just to start writing and getting a name for myself. And now it's worked out. I'm proud to announce just this Friday, I got elected to the board of directors for the Association of Unmanned Vehicles Systems International. And that was just because I wrote a ton of articles and really dug into this. And there's no one to teach me or give me a path. And we just had to figure it out, man, because I was hungry and I just wanted to get the hell out of the Rogue Valley when I was your age. And ironically, I'm back here because it's so beautiful. I love it. I love this small town nonsense to a degree, but then I go up and I depart when I'm over it. But that's because I've made those paths for me by working hard. And as my dad said, you know, work hard now when you can, when everybody else is playing now, and they're going to be flipped and inverted, you know. So if you guys work hard out of this, get yourselves in education as much as you can. Other places to look for would be Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. I'm working on a master's through them right now in unmanned systems, and they're a tremendous place. And they're an online school, so you know, you can do where you need to do remotely. So again, I can help follow up with Josh on finding some of those means to facilitate if you guys are really interested.
Sean, we're really glad that you've chosen to come back. You are a great resource for those who are trying to, build these pathways for themselves. And, you went through the hard work of building that pathway for the rest of us. One thing I will say in regards to the artistic side of droning, there are chances to do that with things like photography and cinematography and the like. However, anyone who's doing this commercially will need to have a Part 107 license. Can you give us a quick breakdown of what that requires?
Sure. So the Part 107 license exam is administered by FAA or subcontractors for the FAA. But we do, again, a 1.5 day course where we go through everything from airport operations, loading and performance, the weather reporting, regulations. I mean, it's a very in-depth course that we have to cover a lot of material. For me, right when that license came out in 2016, I was one of the first 6,000 people in the country to get it. I had to self-study. There was no courses like this. It was just taking all the information that they had. Over the past 4 years, I've harmonized all that information into a course. And again, we focus or been working primarily with firefighters and police officers because they have budgets for our training program. But we sit you down in a classroom. We call it Death by PowerPoint, and just go over, like we did here, but really comprehensive aviation related material. I just had a 75-year-old retiree come and take the class, and he passed it no problem. So your young minds are able to keep at a much higher pace. There'd be no problem getting it. And I would encourage anybody that wants to pursue that. Again, I can provide more information to Josh where you can do self-studying and see all the open source material that's out there. And then maybe if there's a means for that later online next year, we can research and coordinate maybe some other options for a class or something.
Super awesome. I think you have to be 16 or older to take that test. I think that's one of the caveats.
You can be 14 and sit for the exam, but you can't receive your license until you're 16.
Awesome. Good information. Any other questions before we go? Okay. Well, if we could all give Sean a quick round of applause and thank you for your time, Sean. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I really appreciate your guys' time. Thank you very much for seeing me and letting me present to you. Just want to wish you guys a happy holidays and Merry Christmas, and hang in there, man. Keep your chin up, huh?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Thank you much,
Thank
Sean.
you, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Take care.